Why are so many dogs suffering from health issues? Actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, says she's seeing more issues with dogs' joints, odors, and health than ever before. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to support any dog's health: their food. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also sponsors the Jason Debus Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. Dogs across America are trying this food and experiencing amazing health benefits. Go to badlandsranch.com/save50 and order right now to get up to 50% off your regular price order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlandsranch.com/save50 today.
Want a website with unmatched power, speed, and control? Try Bluehost Cloud, the new web hosting plan from Bluehost, built for WordPress creators by WordPress experts. With 100% uptime, incredible load times, and 24/7 WordPress priority support, your sites will be lightning fast with global reach. And with Bluehost Cloud, your sites can handle surges in traffic no matter how big. Plus, you automatically get daily backups and world-class security. Get started now at Bluehost.com.
The following podcast may contain discussions supported by science that may be considered dangerous to some listeners and conspiracy theorists. Discretion is advised.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company. Home delivery available in Regina at sassbeerdelivery.ca. Welcome to the 3 Down Greencast. You are listening to the internet's only drive-through etiquette podcast. I am Joel Gasson with John Fraser, as usual, as we are back from our completely unintended hiatus, apparently. Apparently we can go like 2 years without any football games to talk about, but as soon as a month in winter hits during an off-season, we're just like, nah, we're good.
Well, and to top it off, we were in the same room for like 5 days together.
Mm-hmm.
So on top of, not only was it like, hey, it's the off season, there's some football stuff going on, we were literally in the same basement I'm recording in, getting piled, drinking many great beers from our sponsor, Pile of Bones Brewing Company, and having a great time curling. So, so I don't know if that makes it worse or better, because I almost feel like us being together meant that we have to keep this like entire streak going of us never recording in the same room together.
No, I don't. I think at this point we just got to run with the bit. And if for some reason we were in the same city at a time where we had to record something, I think we just have to be in separate rooms or something.
well, if there's ever any breaking news when you're visiting or I'm down there visiting, I think what we'll have to do is go to different rooms on different floors of our homes.
Exactly. No, absolutely.
Because I don't know. And in fairness, I did one episode of my old podcast with my old co-host, Travis Cura.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in the same room, and we finished, and we both looked at each other and went, that was the weirdest fucking thing I've ever done in my life. It was just, like, weird. And then, like, watching his, like, I always, like, kind of envision what your facial expressions will be when I say dumb shit, but actually seeing the real-time reaction to it is like, oh, that was a really dumb take. Yeah. Threw me off, not gonna lie. So yes, I prefer the anonymity of being in my basement. But yes, we are back.
So like out of the rooms that we're on, like we're on like an online phone service, and we don't even have the cameras on, so we don't even see each other while we're talking through this even. So
no, exactly. And the one time we did, we were interviewing Sergio, and I mean my emotions were everywhere, but it was like still like, well, it's weird. That's what Joel looks like. I kind of forget sometimes, but no, we are back, much to the chagrin of Dave, Jock, and my Grammy.
Mm-hmm. We do have stuff to talk about, believe it or not. I guess that's kind of why we came back. Free agency has come and gone, and I think for the first time in the Jeremy O'Day era, it was actually quite busy, and we have a fair bit to talk to about that, of course, sort of the overall picture of why they did what they had to do, the signing of Trevor Harris, and the whole thing with Darnell Sankey. Before we get to all that, though, you've had a bit of an eventful week just basically trying to get to work. Because,
yes,
a bit of a backstory, you basically buy your coffee every day because Lacey doesn't drink coffee, so you just generally get coffee along the way rather than buying some kind of fancy machine for yourself, because that would be kind of weird.
Exactly. So my routine, and it's usually only when I'm tired, but when you have 3 kids and really like to drink, that's a solid 4 to 5 days a week of work I'm stopping in for coffee. And twice I was angrily texting you, because my day usually starts not with texting my wife, not with looking at my work email. It usually starts with some hot take from one of the two of us texting each other back and forth. So the conversation has already started, and then it's twice I could see the screen of the person ahead of me, for I am angled enough in the drive-thru to see what they're ordering. And the first time was exactly what and I don't mean to bash anybody in a truck, because trucks are great, especially if you need them. But the guy was in a lifted diesel truck, the kind of guy that's screaming over his diesel engine rather than just shutting it off, ordering $100 and some worth of food in the Tim Hortons drive-thru. You don't do that. And then, lo and behold, the very next day, Joel Gasson, somebody in a smaller SUV ahead of me, I can see that they've been going on for a while. And continue to go on for a while, and their order, $80. Now, I get it. Sometimes you're ordering for your bros, your friends. You got the big work order. That's fine. Go inside.
Yeah.
Go inside. Especially because I was at, popular Canadian coffee franchise that really isn't that good, but it's really close to my work.
You already mentioned the name once, so I mean.
Did I?
Yeah. You did,
Well, shit, there goes that gag. Okay, so I'm at Tim's. And I'm in the Timmy's line. And, it's not like, now when you go to McDonald's, if you go to McDonald's for the coffee, it's yeah. Pull up, if you're hey, I'm here to get $80 worth of Big Macs because I'm hungover. They're okay, go to door 3 or the little parking spot. They have a system in place now. So when you go to McDonald's for coffee, you pull up to the door, you get coffee, away you go. You're not stuck and actually late for work one day because somebody has a $110 order in the drive-thru. And I get it. I get it why businesses will never, especially Tim Hortons, as they try to push their terrible food down on you. Breakfast, okay. Rest of it, crap. I get why they'll never say, oh yeah, maximum order in the drive-thru is $30. But come on, man. Just get off your ass. Go inside, get some fresh air. Although most people are smoking outside the door, so get a little nicotine in you, I guess. A little secondhand smoke, a little cancer stick. Walk inside and and they even have the big bags inside. Mm-hmm. You ever notice that? They have these big to-go bags inside. And you go inside, and it's just this overly stuffed thing that almost resembles a football full of breakfast sandwiches and bagels. It's just I don't know why. And I feel like this is a universal thing that everybody I've ever spoken to, left, right, center, old, young, male, female, everybody knows. You just don't do that. So why do people still do it? Who are these people? Where do they come from?
I don't know. I mean, you're talking to a guy who rarely ever uses the drive-thru, period. Even when I'm just going in for myself at a fast food joint, I tend to go inside. I don't know. I'm just weird like that.
See, I'll look at the drive. If the drive-thru line's too long, I'll go inside. I'm the first one to go inside. Mm-hmm. But then I also play a game where I look at the car that's last in line and think, well, I could have been in here with my tunes going, getting in my right headspace to have a bunch of people say no to me all day. Or I'm standing here in line looking at a cardboard cutout of Sidney Crosby in the eyes. So I'm the guy, I like the comforts of my vehicle. And
fair.
If I am...
I'm just saying, I can't relate to ever buying $100 worth of anything at a drive-thru because I basically, unless I'm getting just a coffee, pretty much don't go through any drive-thrus.
See, I'll get a meal for myself. See, okay, I get the drive-thrus for the kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like, sometimes you got the minivan. I got to order 3 Happy Meals and a cheeseburger for myself. Like, okay, I'm not going to haul them out. I'm going to haul them into the restaurant. You know, they're going to probably lick and touch things that are disgusting.
And then they're going to see the ball pit if you have one of those. They're going to want to stay and blah, 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 blah. Like, yeah, I get that. Yeah.
But the most surprising thing of both those drive-thru experiences was watching somebody at 8:55 in the morning get a bottle of Coke.
Yeah.
Like, I know I've drank beer at 8:55 in the morning at a Bonspiel or two before, or like pre-gaming for a afternoon game.
Or like a shot of whiskey because you're playing like crap. That didn't happen at all. No,
that's not something that me and Luke do before every SAS Tour game, which is why we curl way better there than we did in the men's Bonspiel. But it was, there's just something unholy about seeing somebody not only receive, but then subsequently open the bottle of Coke at 9 in the morning. I don't know, man. Just that's another weird, off-putting one that just puts my stomach in a tizzy.
Yeah. Speaking of putting your stomach in a tizzy, we do have a bit of a lettuce update.
Lettuce update.
And that is, of course, now. We'll touch on this briefly because it's really just potentially some quick advice. And that is that apparently word has leaked out, at least in the United States, that Subway is apparently for sale.
Mm-hmm. A sandwich shop you've been frequently far more normally than you would.
Yes, I mean, it's been like twice in the last couple of months. Before that, I probably hadn't had Subway in like 2 years or something. Yeah, wife cravings, it's fine. Actually, weirdly enough, I had the craving one day. I don't know, I just kind of wanted some like dirty deli meat. What can I say?
I think that was the weirdest part of that whole thing is when you're like, man, I'm craving Subway today, and I'm like, so do the wife cravings like spill over to you? Like, is that like I've never seen that, but like, is it a sympathy craving?
I don't know. I was just feeling it. I don't know what to tell you. I just did not really like. Generally speaking, we order in or go out on Fridays. It's like our thing that we do.
Right, it's a great way to cap off the week.
Yeah, and usually it's a local restaurant or something like along those lines. But I don't know. I kind of wanted something quick and easy and felt like a sandwich. I don't know. It doesn't happen very often, but it was just weird. Yeah.
But of course, you didn't get the lettuce.
No, it was spinach all the way. Of course, even though the delivery app we used came preloaded with toppings to like, and the first one was lettuce. I was like, nope.
Nope. I do not want to poop my pants tonight.
So anyway, Subway is apparently for sale. It is unfortunately out of our price range. Otherwise, we would buy it and abolish the lettuce to the sun. So, whichever billionaire hedge fund large group out there that is looking to eventually purchase the Subway brand, please do everyone a favor and change your lettuce supplier at the very least.
Yes. If you go in, I have never not been in a Subway where that lettuce is not brown, which would make sense why it makes my stomach explode like at the poor CN Curling Club of the Saskatoon men's Bonspiel.
Oh boy, did not expect that.
Today. Oh no, that is the best way I could ever summarize. So again, quick callback to peel the curtain back. 2 days before the Saskatoon men's Bonspiel, a Bonspiel that we don't try to win, we just try to rack up our tabs and have a good time. I got a stomach flu. So now, if you could imagine the combination of stomach flu and a 2-day hangover on the Saturday morning. And a dressing room, if you've ever curled a CN Curling Club, the dressing room is very archaic. It's very small. And the door has to remain open in the bathroom. It might have been the worst sound I ever made. I think you and Jay and Luke were on the other side of the dressing room. And I could hear you all crack up. I could hear you all crack up when I unleashed hell upon the CN Curling Club, which I affectionately refer to as Hell's Curling Club.
Yeah.
That's why we couldn't record. That's why we couldn't record.
Luckily, we can record now because there is lots of news to talk about.
Yes.
Before we get to all that, though, for the Pile of Bones Brewing Company, John, what is in the glass this week?
Right now, a little vodka, a little Lucky Bastard vodka. Sign us up. Be our sponsor, please. Hurry up. Little Lucky Bastard vodka with some lemon. But earlier today, I was at the curling club, not the CN, not Hell's Curling Club. I was taking my kids, my sisters up from Calgary, took my boys out curling for the first time, and capped it off with a Nakoma Session Ale.
Nice. Yeah.
Great beer. Like, I love the
Absolutely,
big. I love getting that IPA, that really flavorful taste, and only 4%.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it came, like, just had a can of it, the perfect thing you can sip on after curling and not have a downward spiral of your day that ends up with you and get you on your couch by 6 p.m.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great beer, and I know Jeff's it used to be kind of seasonal, but I think it's pretty much just available all the time now because it's that popular. So
it's kind of become one of the staples at the Nutana. So I still don't know why every game starts with a pitcher of 016.
I mean, pitchers are still just kind of easier at the club, I find. I don't know.
So much easier. Well, then you can put it in the plastic cup. You can take it down to ice level. Like,
yep. Yeah.
You
get a little bit more out of it usually, and it's, at least at the Cali here, it's better priced too. So.
And at the Nutana as well. It is also better price. And nobody really second looks when I just go back there and start pouring my own right on the back of a napkin. Team Fraser, one pitcher.
Yeah. For me, I had one can left in the fridge of the Rebellion Frost Red Winter Ale. It's the beer they brew and release every year around, the last couple of years, at least during the Frost Festival here in Regina, kind of like Winter Option in Saskatoon. Just sort of a nice little winter festival to get people out and about during the cold winter days. And it wasn't really that cold this year for Frost, which is great. And all indications were it was a smashing success this year. 9 Mile has it's called It's Snow Time or something in honor of Winterruption up in Saskatoon as well. So great to see local collabs kind of in terms of festivals and getting the local scene involved with that as well.
No, absolutely. Can't go wrong with it.
So the Riders, this is very different for us right now because we're used to sort of the mid-February show after free agency being like, well, they re-signed these few guys. They signed maybe this one guy and called it a day. And we generally, at least I think last year you had a problem with it. I didn't really so much that Jeremy O'Day wasn't super busy. This year, he really had no option. I think that's safe to say. Coming in on the final year of his contract, coming off his 6-12 season where they missed the playoffs after a promising start in a Grey Cup season, whatever you may think of that. And, there was no choice but to make significant change to this team. Whether that was by choice or by design, it's hard to say. I mean, I have some theories based on the amount of money that they dumped. When you look at Cody Fajardo, Duke Williams, Shaq Evans, Dan Clark is still unsigned. The list goes on. Darnell Sankey, obviously. There's a lot of guys that they basically decided to move on from in varying degrees and cleared up. The math was done on, I think, about 5 guys on the 3 Down Nation podcast with Dunk, Hodge, and JC about a month or so ago, a few weeks ago at least. And they estimated it was about a quarter of the cap they were clearing up with these 5 guys, which kind of made me wonder if the cap was maybe a little bungled last year. And maybe that's why Jeremy O'Day couldn't go as hard as he maybe would have in a Grey Cup year. But again, Justin Dunk and John Hodge and JC Abbott obviously do a great job telling us how much these players make, but they're not really calculated anywhere. There isn't a website like in the NHL or in the NFL or other places where it's kind of independently tracked kind of how the team's cap situation is. So this is just a complete wild
friendly or whatever.
This is a complete out of left field theory for me. I have no idea whether it's true or not, but it feels like there may have at least been some cap complications last year that maybe tied O'Day's hands a little bit. But regardless, he was very busy this year, and even if they weren't in cap hell last year, frankly, he had to make drastic changes to the roster considering the way everything went last year. And it's whether it works out or not, we don't know, but it's safe to say he has at least taken the first step towards making sure the season goes better.
To quote one of my favorite shows, Letterkenny and its spin-off Shoresy, they got to get bums in seats. And after a terrible, terrible, terrible season where the bums were not occupying the seats, like you said, they had to do something. They had to remake this team. They had to get better. And I would say I think they won free agency. I really do. Like, if you took every need that Saskatchewan had last year, offensive line, quarterback, even a little with the receiving. I know we differ our opinions a little bit on the receiving core. But basically, I don't think there's any other team out there that went, okay, we're not great on the line. Our quarterback, for reasons that as every day passes, I blame less on him.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback wasn't good. Offensive line wasn't good. And they had some holes on defense and at receiver. And to me, if they had a checklist of guys they needed, they just went out and just completed it. They went out like this was a scavenger hunt, and boom, had it done. And I still feel like now with what they've done and how quickly and decisively they moved to go improve the team, that maybe you see those guys that are triple circling back and it's getting close to training camp, accepting a lesser offer to even strengthen the depth on this team. Like, I think today, this is a significantly better football team than it was at any point last year, even with the hot start and things going well.
I don't disagree with that. I think there's no question, whatever you may think of Cody Fajardo and what happened there, out of the quarterbacks that hit the free agent market, so basically the entire list minus Bo Levi Mitchell.
Right.
Even if you were a giant fan of Cody Fajardo, and even if Cody Fajardo was, let's say, decent to pretty okay last year, Trevor Harris was still the best option on the market, despite I think some obvious deficiencies in sort of his game and his history. Regardless of, I have my reservations of him being a truly elite quarterback, but this is the state of quarterbacking in the CFL right now. Yes. And there is no question that Trevor Harris was the number one quarterback that actually made it to free agency. So
yes,
the fact that
by a long shot.
the fact that they got that deal done, even though I think it's pretty obvious he had maybe two real options if he wanted to start, and the other one was where he was, which was quickly going from kind of a mess to complete circus, decided he wanted nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
So basically it was like, does Trevor Harris want to be a backup again? Probably not. So I think it was about a week or two before free agency, I was like, he's going to sign in Saskatchewan because he really has no other option if he wants to start day one.
No, and I'm glad to see O'Day not really wait and screw that up.
No,
right? Like,
he knew he couldn't afford. He couldn't afford to, because there is still talk that Montreal may be sold soon, and maybe that stabilizes a bit. So maybe Trevor gets talked into it. I mean, who knows, right? So.
Right. Well, and that's it. You can't, people are going to say, well, you had to overpay for him. Well, of course you had to overpay for him. You're paying for a number one quarterback that you haven't drafted or developed or anything. And that's it. And from, again, everything you read from Duncan, JC, and Haji, he's not making that much more than Cody Fajardo did.
No. It's like an extra $50K or so, I believe.
Right. So yeah, on paper, you hear $1 million for 2 years in the CFL for a 35-year-old guy, you tend to get a little worried, but the things, before I get into what worries me, I am going to say what excites me. You have a new offensive coordinator that says, I'm going to build something around the pieces, which to me now indicates that you're not going to see Saskatchewan try to go deep on every two plays. I think you're going to see very much a ball control, take advantage of Trevor Harris's accuracy, get the run game going. Like
his ability to get the ball out quick is going to help the offensive line.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, the new names along the offensive line are going to help the offensive line. So to me, you're going to have what you're going to see from the Riders next year, just based on, you're going to see that ball come out quick. You're going to see long drives. You're going to see, but still with an ability to exploit a defense if they give you a look. The guy's a veteran. I said it when I was on CTV Saskatoon. The guy followed the Tom Brady method, the diet, the everything that keeps guys playing forever. And to me, that's a positive. I mean, hope his life doesn't end up the way that Brady's life ended up last year, but
no, I think Trevor is a little more committed to his family.
yeah, absolutely, right? So, but the only thing that worries me, and this has changed my mind a lot in Cody Fajardo, because I've been in this very space very critical of Cody, calling him too soft to play in Saskatchewan, but for him to come out and say the way that Craig Dickinson treated him, I don't know if I blame Cody for his struggles anymore, because Cody basically came out and said, I was told all the time, that's it, you screw up, you're coming out. That's it, you screw up, you're coming out. You can't fill a guy's head with negative and expect him to do anything positive.
Yeah, it's just another sign of a spiraling coach during a bad year.
Why are so many dogs suffering from health issues? Actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, says she's seeing more issues with dogs' joints, odors, and health than ever before. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to support any dog's health: their food. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also sponsors the Jason Debus Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. Dogs across America are trying this food and experiencing amazing health benefits. Go to badlandsranch.com/save50 and order right now to get up to 50% off your regular price order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlandsranch.com/save50 today.
It's like I believe it was a joke during John Paddock's time with the Ottawa Senators, where they were getting such atrocious goaltending that he started publicly talking about winning you're in. And neither goalie ended up winning.
Right.
And unsurprisingly, a few months later, he was fired. So,
right. Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing with coaching. When you're coaching professionals, when you're coaching men, you can't sit there and be negative, because any person in that spot, like, hell, I can tell when I've curled a bad game at rec level. I don't need anybody to tell me. I mean, we can all joke about it when I curl like shit, or I can tell when I've done a bad broadcast, when I haven't been sharp on the podcast. I can tell that stuff. I don't need somebody to fill my head with it, because I'm going to go work and finding myself a way to get better. So to constantly hear, we're going to put in this guy. Well, the guy behind you is dog shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing too. Like, to me, everybody behind Cody is not a CFL quarterback.
No, nothing.
So for you to hold that over
other than
head,
maybe Levi Lewis, because we just didn't see him play. We don't know.
Right, but still, like, you've got a coach over a guy who I still won't say, like, I never want to question a guy's mentality. I don't like doing that, but it's obvious that Cody takes things to heart more than a lot of guys. Whether that be thick skin, but that's the way the guy's wired. And you have to look at the way the guy's wired. Maybe you can tell a guy like Trevor Harris, that's 36 years old, has been in the league a long time, like, hey, man, you're playing like shit. You don't stop playing like shit, we're going to bring the next guy in.
Yeah, and like I think for, sort of some of Trevor Harris's flaws, for lack of a better term, on the field, I think what he will, for sure, we can definitely say will bring is a more stable presence to the position. And that's what our colleague Brendan McGuire wrote for 3downnation.com. He wrote that basically, we'll see how it kind of plays out on the field, but we know Trevor Harris is going to be level-headed. It's going to be like a straight line the entire time. He's not going to get too high. He's not going to get too low. Because I think Cody kind of suffered, the Craig Dickinson stuff aside, even between everything else, he kind of suffered from, like, in 2019, he got really high on himself, understandably, because of how great everything was. Everyone was having so much fun. The sprinkles of Jesus, the corn dogs, the whole thing. Yeah, it was great. That was all fun and games. And then it went the complete opposite way, and he couldn't quite handle it going that far down. So Trevor Harris can come out and throw for 6,000 yards or 1,200 yards in a season. He's probably going to approach it the same. Yeah, so know kind of the baseline you're going to get from him, and that either way, nothing's really going to get in his head as much. And that in itself is an upgrade of some kind. How much that translates to wins, we'll see.
Certainly.
That's all, folks.
I could feel your brain. I could hear the gears grinding, kind of trying to come up with a transition there.
No, I thought we were still talking about Trevor, to be honest. But
that's fair.
Well, I think sort of, and we can kind of maybe move into it from this, is, I think one of the things people have talked about Trevor Harris is defensive coordinators talk about, off the record, that he's kind of easy to play against at times.
Yeah.
And you start to figure it out, and you need like a Geno Lewis type playmaker to kind of elevate his play. And that's not always a great sign of a quarterback, and I don't know if they entirely got that with the receiving core that they currently have.
I think Schaefer Baker could potentially be that guy.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that happened to them at receiver was Keon Schaefer Baker not getting an NFL offer. There's no question about that.
Certainly. Yeah, that was as big as any signing they made last year.
Because he went to multiple tryouts, and generally that's a sign you're going to get an offer, and he didn't. Why? Who knows? But he didn't. And after that, though, I know there's been a lot of change to the receiving core. There had to be. I think Shaq Evans, Duke Williams, even Justin McInnis to a degree, all these guys have kind of run their course here. It was time to make a change. And I'm just not sure if Jake Wieneke really has that rebound in him. We'll see. Johan Breskison's decent. Maybe Bain Jr. is sort of a diamond in the rough that they can uncover to use in a certain role. But I'm not entirely convinced that the receiving core is going to actually be all that better than last year.
No, I would agree with you. I do like, though, the flexibility that Breskison it brings to the team. Mm-hmm. Right? You could potentially throw 3 Canadians at receiver because Picton's back, Schaefer Baker's back. He's been signed. You find a 4th guy that can play in that spot, and all of a sudden you can go 3 Canadians at receiver, which again can typically help you someplace else in the roster. Now, you are right. If he doesn't have the big playmaker, he tends to struggle because he's all about ball control. He's not about the big playability. He's about getting into the hands of the athletes, and I think he does have athletes around him, but you're right. He needs that guy to be that guy, and I think that's why the Riders are trying to see, okay, can Breskison be what he was in Calgary? Not what he was in Toronto. He was good in Toronto, but he was great in Calgary, right?
Yeah.
Can Wieneke come back? Can he bounce back? It just seems like they're throwing darts at the board to see if one of those guys can be that guy.
But that was, kind of like kind of an offensive line was kind of the same idea. I think we were all kind of surprised that Philip Blake hit the market again. But good on Jeremy O'Day to get him back. But other than Geno Lewis, there wasn't that must-get receiver, right? So it was likely to be a project either way. So I think if this
Kenny Lawler,
but he seemed set on going back to Winnipeg.
Yeah, from everything that we've seen, he took less money than he was making. I mean, it wasn't hard for him to take less money than he was making last year.
We also learned that it seems general managers did not really learn in terms of overpaying receivers last year, but anyway.
No. Well, that Geno Lewis got... Well, and that was the thing. Everybody's talking Geno Lewis, but, let's face it, Saskatchewan, especially in the cap situation they were in, bringing in pieces on the offensive line, bringing in Trevor Harris, and having some sanity, because I don't think it's a coincidence that the same guy has signed 300,000 plus contracts for receivers in the past 2 off seasons.
Which and you generally make those moves for big high-end receivers when you maybe don't, when your quarterback maybe isn't the most accurate, and I think that's a good way to describe Taylor Cornelius. So
yeah, the guy throws an effortless deep ball, but yeah, you have to go get those guys. Meanwhile, for Saskatchewan, there's a chance that one of those guys that we've discussed can work out, and I think it's going to. I think you move Keon Schaefer Baker into the slot, he becomes your playmaker.
Well, they have to do that. Right? He cannot be on the corner this year. He can't.
No, I don't know why he ever was in the first place, right? That just goes back to, again, I think the best move of the offseason, not only because it brought you 2 players from Montreal, was firing Jason Moss. Okay, and I know they're saying ownership. I know Harris is saying ownership, but it just seems to me, and this is pure, no inside knowledge, tinfoil hat, put me on old takes exposed kind of thing. But it's just striking to me that we all thought Harris was returning to Montreal. And again, the ownership situation was bubbling, but it was when they hired Jason Moss, he's like, I'm out of here. Gone. Mm-hmm. And he had a decent season under Moss in Edmonton, but again, I just see a veteran guy that goes, you know what? I don't like this guy. I got other options. See you later.
It is a question I asked to my colleagues at 3 Down Nation. They didn't have an obvious answer, but I mean, it's I don't know, just because there's often an assumption that when a quarterback and a coach work together in the past, it means, they must like each other. But I mean, that's not always necessarily true. And
No.
Trevor Harris did have some success under Jason Maas, both as his quarterbacks coach in Ottawa and head coach / OC in Edmonton. But yeah, maybe he didn't feel like going down that road again. It's entirely possible.
It ended ugly in Edmonton.
Yes, no question. Like, we were having conversations on this show about how everyone hated him.
Yes, absolutely we were.
And I mean, there's probably some truth to it. Like, there's some of the things that some of his teammates maybe said about him, especially in terms of when he gets hit, he folds, isn't entirely wrong. But at the same time, I think from that, we'll see. It feels like he has kind of grown and learned out of that situation and is maybe a better teammate now for it.
Yeah, and went and got his shot so he could continue playing for his teammates, right? Like, it's just... I don't know. I just think that you get rid of Jason Maas and all of a sudden it's like instantly two of the Alouette starters are signing with you on second one of the negotiating window.
Yeah.
Like, and if and realistically, if we're to believe what we've been hearing, Gino Lewis was, considering it, but then just how do you say no to an extra $100,000 a year?
No, exactly. And I mean, especially after your quarterback who made you that money is no longer there.
Right. That's exactly it. Right. Like, okay, do you take really good money to go play with him again in Saskatchewan? Because you got to think, if the Riders were talking to him, $2 to $250 was probably on the table.
Yeah, I would think so. Right? Somewhere in that range. They probably basically would have swapped the Duke Williams money for him, probably. Plus, exactly. A little bit more, maybe. Yeah. So 225, 250 was on the table. But especially in football where your careers are short and in the CFL where the money is, for guys like me and you, it's good money. It's not necessarily great money for professional athletes. A guy that could go out tomorrow and blow up his Achilles, doing a workout and not see a dime of it, right? So yeah. I'll never ever argue with a guy getting the bag. No, never.
So I will never fault Gino Lewis for probably looking. He probably had 2 to 250 on the table from everybody else in the CFL. Chris Jones comes in at 350. Like, you'd be dumb not to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you'd be dumb not to take it unless you had a guarantee that some rich farmer in Saskatchewan was going to drop off a check for $100,000 for you to, I don't know, shine his shoes or something, right? Like
NIL comes to the CFL.
Right, exactly. Right. I mean, come on. It's the same when these guys go and they're speaking tours of the province. Do you really think a guy from Georgia wants to be in Watson, Saskatchewan when it's minus 40 outside? I mean, I love that they do it. I love that they do it. But these guys aren't doing it for free.
No.
Like, it's the perks of signing with the Riders. It's perks like that you can make some extra coin doing things like that, but there's no way you're sneaking $100,000 in for that. So good on Gino Lewis. It's disappointing he never came to Saskatchewan because, again, as we discussed the receiving core, you put Gino Lewis with Keon Schaefer-Baker, ball game.
Yeah.
Done. Right? Like this
yeah, and add in Jamal Morrow and Frankie Hickson running the ball. I mean, you're on to something there.
Right.
No question.
I still think they're on to something, but it's just rather than day one...
It's not as explosive as it could have been, yeah.
Right. Day one, Gino Lewis would be the guy. This might take, game 4, game 5. Is it Weineke? Is it Keon Schaefer-Baker? Is it maybe a guy they find in training camp? Because, let's face it, there is an abundance of explosive American receivers that come from the NCAA all the time.
Mm-hmm. One guy who did reject the money is linebacker Darnell Sankey.
Yes.
And it was, of course, our boy J.C. Abbott who reported, I believe a day or two before free agency was going to open, or in the window period sometime, whenever, that Sankey had turned down an offer from the Riders that was going to pay him, I believe, $160, which would have made him the second highest paid American linebacker behind, of course, Adam Big Hill.
Right.
A fair spot for a free agent linebacker to be, because I don't think there's any question that no American linebacker in this league right now should probably be paid more than Adam Big Hill.
No, absolutely not. And I think Big Hill gets paid for his leadership and his big community guy and things like that. I don't know if Big Hill's an 180. And again, I'm a guy that watches every Winnipeg game.
Yeah.
I don't know if his play on the field is the level it should be, but the stories I hear firsthand about Adam Big Hill, you gotta pay him to keep him around there. He's that kind of guy.
Yeah, and I mean, professional sports is a little less so in football than other sports, but your pay later in your career can kind of be lifetime achievement-y. So
yeah,
that's just kind of how that is at times. Anyway, so he rejected the offer, according to reports from our own JC Abbott. Then his agent and Darnell Sankey both got mad online about it, stating that there was more to this story, despite repeated efforts by people at 3 Down Nation to get said side of the story. Both of them refused. So if there was this great, grand, big piece of information that we were all missing on this story, you would think, I don't know, if I was the agent of Darnell Sankey and, someone else got reported that my client had turned down an offer and there was this big piece of information they were missing, I would be very willing to give that up very quickly. The fact that they didn't just means you were mad that your client blew his best chance.
Well, and that's almost like, this is the thing that I can kind of do is like, all jokes aside, I'm kind of the satellite of 3 Down Nation, and I can go out and I can get mad and things like that. That it like people always come at guys like Dunk and guys like JC, guys like Hodge, and to a way lesser extent, guys like you and me. Oh, that's fake news. It's about when have we been wrong? When? And I get that you can't fire back at everybody all the time. I get that, but the validity spoke for itself, because you have to think, if you're Sankey's agent. And you're right. You had a smoking gun. You had this is what went down. This is the information. This is you're wrong. This is what happened. You think Sankey's agent's getting signed up by? You think any CFL players trying to sign with him right now? Because from all accounts, he dropped the ball. He fumbled the ball big, and you know it's bad when I can go on CTV Saskatoon and have the great CFL News Twitter account that is read by, I'm assuming probably 7/8 of the league. They know that account. They follow it. And for have my comments paraphrased that I said on CTV, basically backing up JC's reporting and calling out Sankey's agent again. If there was something legit there, somebody's coming after me. Like, somebody is saying something to me. Somebody's sliding into my DM. Somebody's coming out and saying something like, hey, man, you're talking out your ass, which I do quite frequently. It's true. It's rare that I pick a name and pick a side and find a hill to die on. Radio silence.
Yep.
You had some people, and this was a shame that, to Sankey's credit, you had some people say, well, he didn't want to be in Regina. Guy was a big community guy. Guy was at events. He seemed to enjoy his time at Regina. I don't think it was that. It was his agent thought he should make more than Adam Bighill.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is a sign of a guy that you probably shouldn't work with or work for, that's in charge of your income.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Dave Dickinson admitted in Scrum that included our Ryan Ballantyne that they had late discussions with Darnell Sankey. Of course, what the offer was at that point, we don't know. I assume it was nowhere near the $160K, and that's why he is now in the XFL. So,
and what's the XFL salary? Is it $60K American?
Something like that. I don't know. 59 or something. He may get more than that as a vet. I don't exactly know how their salary structure works, but regardless, that I think that seems to back up that there wasn't really much else out there for his client after he turned down what honestly was probably actually a pretty stupid offer from Jeremy O'Day.
Well, it freed him up to get actually. Okay, so the average salary in the XFL is $60,000 US with a win bonus of $1,000 per win. So
10-game season, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, 10-game season, $60,000.
You're probably not going undefeated, so.
No, and you're probably looking at probably a 30% exchange rate. So a third of 60 would be 20. So 80,000. Yeah, so he basically, it's safe to assume that he probably didn't have an offer above 90 grand Canadian. Mm-hmm. That's why I had to go to the XFL.
Yeah, I mean, this is, no disrespect to Darnell Sankey. This is just the player that he is. He's kind of more of the old school linebacker type that is difficult to pay a lot of money in the CFL, and you probably shouldn't pay a lot of money for in the CFL because he was the typical sort of guy on a bad team that just racked up a bunch of tackles. but isn't exactly great in coverage. He had a lot of downfield tackles, and I mean that's great. Someone's got to do it, but it's not worth even $160K a year, quite frankly. And obviously the rest of the league agreed. So at the end of the day, Jeremy O'Day should probably be thanking Darnell Sankey's agent for giving him bad advice and saving him from himself in this situation.
Yeah, dodged a bit of a bullet on that one for sure, because you are absolutely correct. If you watch the games, you watch them a little closer. He's old school. He'll stop the run. He'll fill that hole. He'll blow some guys up, which makes him a fan favorite and highly noticeable. The kind of guy that on tape looks like he should make 160. But yeah, he's got holes in his game, especially at an easy, much like American receiver. Unless you have an Adam Bighill, it's generally pretty easy to replace those guys at that linebacker position.
No, it's a position you do not want to generally overpay at, and I think overall the Riders did that last year at linebacker, and they kind of paid for it on defense. I think, this year with Mika Tights and Larry Dean kind of at the two big linebacker spots, come in a little cheaper, find some vet Americans to put behind them, and then of course you have your Sam more of like a DB position. So I think they're in a better spot sort of where they spread their money out this year compared to last year.
No, certainly. And I mean, I honestly think a direct correlation between losing Darnell Sankey is getting Micah Johnson for what appears to be a very good, very surprisingly decent cap number, according to Justin Dunk, JC, and Haji. So, to me, I'd rather have Micah Johnson.
Yeah, I would much rather spend on the.
Yeah,
I have my questions about how much he actually has left in the tank, but at the price tag he's at, okay, it's worth a flyer to see if he still has it. If not, hopefully a young American can step in and fill the void in the middle.
Well, and again, young American comes in, you got a guy that can mentor him about being 1 yard off the ball and all that kind of good stuff. So, I'd rather have and I'm not saying Sankey wasn't a big team guy, but
no.
The price what you got Sankey for the ability to bring in Johnson, I think you upgraded on the defense in that spot. And again, I hate to say it because Sankey's a big community guy. He was a guy that spent time around Regina, and it's a shame that his agent really fumbled the ball on this. And he vague tweeted too. I almost wonder if he hasn't got rid of his agent, which I hope he did, because that's some terrible advice.
Yeah. A guy who doesn't have an agent that has signed with the Riders, and we're going to end on this note, is the one great Rob Vanstone. It seems this came together quickly if you missed the news on Sunday, because naturally we are recording for the first time in months on Sunday of a long weekend. Just prime time for podcast release. Rob Vanstone has left the Regina Leader Post after about 300 years to be the writer / historian / doer of many media things, kind of like Ed Tate's role with the Bombers, but with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Rob's a great guy. Love Rob to death. Hope this works out well for him. I think the history stuff is going to be his jam. He's going to love doing all that. I hope the video side of that with it is done well, and that it's worth sort of the time and effort I know he's going to be putting into this. So I hope people really do consume this content and interact with it in every chance they get for the sake of Rob. Mostly just for the sake of Rob, because we love Rob, and I wish him nothing but success with the Riders going forward.
Well, and I love the fact that the Riders, much like Winnipeg did, as you mentioned with Ed Tate, but between Daniela and bringing in Ariel as the director of communications, and now with having Rob Vanstone over there, the talent they have putting out their content on their own website, it's just that's second to none. I'm looking forward to what Rob. I love listening to him and Murray on the podcast. I hope his podcasting continues. I love the history aspect of it. Rob's just a 10 out of 10 human being, and his talent for sports writing is just completely off the charts. And as a guy that still reads this stuff, he's going to be missed at the Leader Post, and there's going to be that's a big L and a huge get for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So congrats, Rob. That's fantastic. I look forward to even as a non-Rider fan, I very much look forward to consuming all the content that you're posting.
When you need to work quickly and confidently across different apps and platforms, consistent quality communication is key. Whether you're writing documents, emails, or presentations, you need Grammarly. It's an AI writing partner that helps you get your work done faster with better writing. It's always there to help because it works where you work, across 500,000 apps and websites, so you can get more done no matter where you're writing. Grammarly is the gold standard of responsible AI, trusted by millions of professionals for 15 years. It gives you personalized writing suggestions based on your audience, goals, and context, plus tone suggestions to help you navigate even the most difficult work conversations. 96% of users agree. Grammarly helps them craft more impactful writing. Sign up and download Grammarly for free at Grammarly.com/podcast. That's GRAMMARLY.com/podcast. Grammarly. Easier said, done.
Shop Plato's Closet tax-free August 2nd through 4th for back-to-school styles. We sell the trendy, gently used styles you need to make a difference in the world and in your wallet for back-to-school shopping. Save up to 70% off regular retail prices by choosing recycled styles. Save even more when you shop tax-free this weekend. Make a change that others can respect and repeat. Shop Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley this year for your back-to-school looks. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.